For the last 15 years, the young noble Irene Pereira has done nothing but sleep his depression away. That is, until one day, a recurring dream of a swordsman diligently practicing inspired him to get out of his depressive state. With renewed vigor from his dream, Irene takes up the blade and enrolls in one of the most prestigious schools to become a master swordsman and live up to the man in his dreams. It all started with the diary of an old man who is living in a rural village. One day, a stranger walks into the village, carrying with him a gigantic sword. It was hate at first sight for our narrator. But seeing this lone stranger, there's a certain determination burning in his eyes that even the narrator himself couldn't help but notice. He was hoping the elder of their village would reject the hooded stranger, but he was accepted easily and welcomed warmly. Well, whatever, the man thought. Now, it's been 4 days since their new neighbor arrived, yet he keeps mostly to himself and is quiet as a mouse. Is he even alive? Some of their nosy villages tried to befriend the stranger, but they weren't successful. It's not like he cares anyway. Then just like that, a week already passed, then 10 days, and finally, he now knows what the stranger does. Some of the village kids happened to see it and told him. The stranger practices with his sword every day. The narrator figured out on the get-go that the stranger must have some backstory, but who cares, right? Not his business to mind. Now, it's been a month since he first stayed here, and talks of the stranger diligently practicing his sword daily are still a popular topic in the village. Still, the narrator refuses to see the man practice with his sword. Then another month came and passed, and another. The people of the village continue to talk about this mysterious stranger, and by now they have already formed various stories about why he continues to wield his sword. Some say he's a knight, practicing for the day he could exact his revenge, while others claim that he's a famous mercenary. You know, the usual folktales. Our narrator still wasn't interested in all of this, but now, he has got to see the man wielding the sword at this point, right? Like, come on. The dude's been training consistently for the last 6 months. Nobody's that dedicated, or so he thought, so he has got to see this for himself. Is he a skilled swordsman? How fast is his technique, and is he strong? All kinds of questions popped into the man's head, so he decided that he'll see how this mysterious swordsman practices his craft tomorrow. Then came tomorrow. For all that hype, this swordsman's skills look pretty basic, at least according to our narrator. He has worked at a firm and has seen how swordsmen test their swords, and this man's skills are nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, sure, maybe he's got his reasons why he's practicing so damn hard. Maybe a sob story, but that ain't enough to sharpen his skills. Whatever this swordsman's reasons may be, it's downright stupid and pitiful according to our narrator. Now, he won't be affected by what the townsfolk say about this swordsman. After some time, a new family came into town that consisted of a mercenary, his son, and a daughter named Rima. Now, our narrator got pretty smitten with Rima, who he calls an angel and greets everybody with a smile. Our boy's already feeling breezy and plans to make a move on Rima the next day. And not relevant at all to the story, says the narrator, but their village has always been at the mercy of the sword for the 3rd year by now. Many years passed, and now the narrator continues to log into his diary after a long time. After courting Rima for 2 years, they got married, which he considers the happiest day of his life. But even if that is so, he can't help but feel that he's not in a relationship. By now, it's been 5 years since the stranger was welcomed into their village, and despite many people experiencing a lot of different things, the swordsman continues to swing his sword without fail every day. Is it really for practice, or is he torturing himself? Haunted by this thought, our narrator took it upon himself to check on the diligent swordsman daily. By now, it's been 5 years, 1 month, and 12 days since he trained with his sword, and he went in to check up on him the next day, and the next, and the next, and in a blink of an eye. It's been 6 years, 2 months, and 18 days since he trained with his sword. Then it's 6 years, 9 months, and 3 days, of which the days as of late have been snowing for a while. But the swordsman's desire to practice is stronger. He's still at it. While he's busy swinging his sword, our narrator now welcomes his first child with Rima. Many of the townspeople celebrated this event, and yet the swordsman remains unfazed, choosing to continue to wield his sword instead. Damn, who made this guy his enemy? Through rain and snow, he continues to wield his sword. But what for? Then came a day when our narrator didn't check up on the village swordsman, but he's still probably swinging his sword, right? If there's one thing you could expect him to do, is wielding the sword. Now, the narrator has grown old, his children having kids of his own. He's woken up one day by Jan Siak, his grandson, as his daughter Laura informs him that they'll be visiting the village market. She invited him to come along with them, but he refused, choosing to walk around the village instead. Now, he's regarded as the village chief, revered by the people, and just like anything that time touches, the village has also changed, except for the lone swordsman. Stopping by the rugged gate of the swordsman, the village president thought to himself that it's been 37 years since this stranger stepped foot in their village, and just as he laid eyes on what was beyond the doors, his eyes widened in shock and he came running towards the swordsman who was kneeling on the ground, unmoving with his sword still in his hand. With long gray hair and worn-out clothes, the swordsman died with his eyes wide open, yet his grip on the sword was firm as ever. The narrator was awestruck with this view, a silver light emanating from the swordsman now gone. He then quickly laid his body to rest, closed his eyes, and told the swordsman that he hoped he went to a good place. And that's exactly when a blonde-haired, blue-eyed prince woke up with a sweat. What in the inception is this? Enter the Pereira estate, famous for several nobles' places of training. It sits in the southern part of the Heil Kingdom. But what this region is most known for are the Pereira Baron's children, at least according to what the guard said. What's more, according to him, Lady Curl is famous throughout the lands and she received her official title despite being 11. Another guard asked if she was appointed by the royal family, but the first one stressed that it was because she's a sorcerer, which is pretty rare and special, even rarer than high magicians. Then again, the third guard says it doesn't matter anyway because the firstborn is Lord Aaron, which left the two guards speechless. So what's his deal and what's with that reaction? Well, it turns out Aaron is pretty infamous and the rookie guard already knew about it. Duchess Keel, commonly known as Princess Curl, is known for her magical prowess, but her brother Aaron is more well known throughout the land. He earned the nickname Lazy Lord because he could not do anything after the passing of his mother at a young age. From this tragic event, he refused to partake in any activities and just slept, staying cooped up in his room, which is where they got his moniker. Can't blame him really. Lad watched his mother die right in front of him after all. As the three guards continue their idle banter, their attention is caught by a voice from behind. And it's none other than Princess Curl Pereira and her mother, Amelia, the second wife. Princess Curl, a blue-eyed blonde with her hair partially covering the right side of her face, stood glaring at the guards. As if her intimidating aura is not enough, she also questioned these guards who taught them to play hooky while still working, but they were all quick to bow and ask for forgiveness. Now that is quite the 90-degree bow they got there. But Princess Curl was relentless. She continued to grill them about what they were sorry for, asking what they did wrong until her mother intervened and saved these guards' butts. With a sly smile and a sideward glance, she asked them if they already knew what they did wrong, to which they easily agreed and bowed hastily again. Finally, mother and daughter seemed to be satisfied with their answers, so they walked away, and as soon as they did, the guards released a sigh of relief. Mother-daughter combo. Thinking about them, they can't help but wonder how different Lord Aaron is from them. Meanwhile, inside the palace, grunting sounds can be heard, and it's coming from the lazy Lord, Aaron Pereira himself. Seems he has trouble trying to sleep, which is pretty surprising since he's known to sleep by this time. And the root cause of this, the recurring dream he has, he swore he could taste the tiredness in his mouth from swinging the sword, even the muscle pain that came with it. But what's the most shocking out of all of these is that his body is full of energy. So full of energy that he can't stop shaking. He's got to do something. With a shaking voice, he called out to someone, but his butler was quick to answer. At first, he was hesitant to say what he wanted, which left his butler feeling puzzled, but thankfully, the Dutch managed to speak a few words, asking for a sword and his wish to swing it. The butler stood in silence, staring at him blankly. Nani? Did he just ask for a sword? Shocked at the request, his butler could only answer yes in a questioning manner. At the Pereira household's training hall, everyone's trying their best to focus on their own respective tasks, but they can't help but notice the elephant in the room. This is not a hallucination, right? All of them are seeing the same thing, right? The whispers grew louder as Aaron Pereira, along with his butler, walks into the training hall. Is this the second coming or what? The guards continue to whisper behind his back that it's difficult enough to see him as of late, but to make an appearance in the training hall, totally unheard of. They were just wondering if he was out here trying to learn how to wield the sword when he suddenly approached the weapons displayed on the wall, eyeing the said weapon with the biggest blade. To this, his butler explained that there are various kinds of swords, even wooden ones, and that if he can wait for a bit, he's willing to bring someone who is quite knowledgeable about this weapon. However, Aaron dismissed his suggestion and continued looking at the weapons in front of him, and he did. In fact, choose the one with the biggest blade. By this time, the guards are pretty riled up, and one of them even asked his fellow guard to pinch him in the cheeks if he was dreaming or what. Nope, not a dream. However, a grunt left everyone distracted and the rest of the guards curious as they continued to eye Aaron, holding a sword in his hand. Even his butler was watching him closely as he shakingly gripped the heavy sword and got into position. With everything he has, he tried to swing the sword, but knowing his stamina and lack of knowledge about the weapon, it was flimsy at best. Many of Aaron's spectators already expected that he'd be pretty bad at it given his history. Everybody knows that he's lazy and sleeps all the time, but seeing him come out of his room for the first time in a long while was something worth seeing. But what in tarnation made him take up sword training? One of the palace's drudges chimed in the conversation that maybe it was because of Lord Gyron who made Aaron get up on his feet. According to his neighbor, our novice swordsman was humiliated by Lord Gyron last month. So that's what happened. At least they all thought. Although many people saw this, not all were in the loop since Aaron was just sitting quietly at the time. Humiliation is a proven motivation after all, so can't blame him. The question is, how long can he do this? As the palace's drudges went back to work, Aaron continued to wield his sword while his butler side-eyes these people. They even had the balls to say that Aaron will last only 3 days doing this while the other said he'll only last 30 minutes. His butler could only look at them in disdain, thinking to himself that everyone is not the same, and then changed his focus to Aaron instead. He told the young noble that swordsmanship takes a lot of effort and it's not for everybody, adding that he'll put out a call tomorrow to start looking for someone to help him. But Aaron was in the zone right now with the sword in his hands. He could feel the pain all over, especially in his arms. Even he starts questioning himself on why he does this as he continues to swing the sword. Wielding it with such force despite having a frail body, he ends up being out of breath and lies on the ground, panting. But why does he feel at ease? Does this dude happen to be a masochist of some sort? The more he continues to copy what the swordsman in his dream does, the more his heart's burdens light up. And with every swing of the sword, all the bad memories and confusing thoughts disappear from his mind. He can't stop this addicting feeling. The only thing that snapped him out of this reverie is his butler, who had to physically stop him from swinging the sword since it was already sundown. What? Already? Still a bit high from the feeling, Aaron is confused why he was stopped until he collapsed in his butler's arms, his body giving out from exhaustion. With his vision finally focusing on the surroundings, he finally noticed that it was indeed sundown while his butler worried over him. But how did the day go by so fast? As he clings to his butler, he asks him why he didn't leave, but his butler knew better than to leave him alone. He waited for him patiently and even called out to him many times, but to no avail. But finally, Aaron is ready to rest, so he assures him that what he did was good training, but it's best not to overexert himself, which he agrees not to do again. Back in his room, Aaron complains about the pain in his body, thinking he couldn't do something like this. It's all the dream's fault. How exactly can he sleep with all this pain and heaviness? And just like that, he was out like a light 5 minutes later. A few days later, a shocking scene continues to haunt the palace walls, this time in the dining hall. Aaron gobbles his sandwich with so much gusto that even his butler still can't believe the prince is up on his feet and out of his room. Still shocked, he asks Aaron if he will train today as well, which the latter confirms. Thinking to himself, Aaron wonders about how he's haunted by the recurring dream of the swordsman and how, if he continues to practice, the pain is relieved. So he took it upon himself to wield the sword. He did, however, have a moment's thought that he may be losing his mind, but whatever, it's worth a try, and to continue wielding it. He needs to eat up and have more energy. As soon as he thought of this, he ordered more sandwiches and milk. Finally, that's the main character's energy we're looking for. Back in the training hall, the guards are once again speculating if this will be the day. Many of them even placed bets, adding the new guard into the loop on what he thinks will happen today, until a lone hooded figure approached them from behind. It turns out to be an old man, leaning into his walking stick, asking where the palace training grounds are located. You just know whenever someone like this pops out, our hero is about to be schooled real good. The guards question him on the location he wants to go, but he reassures them that he's but a wandering traveler and a former swordsman who just wants to watch from the sidelines. To prove his identity, he even says that he has a proper license, but the guards didn't ask for it anymore and led him to the training grounds with ease. So off they go to the palace's training grounds, the guards already thinking about the bet, and as they reached the area, the older one exclaimed in shock, seeing none other than the once lazy prince, Aaron, training hard with the sword. It's already the 4th day since he started this whole gig, much to the younger guard's happiness. Turns out this guard actually betted that Eren would still be up and running by this time. Good call. And yep, his sword practices became a betting game for a lot of the guards by now. As the younger guard collected his payment, he also said that Eren may still be at it for a while longer since Garen's son, Lord Jiren, got him real good last month. Humiliation is a good motivation, remember? As they continue to banter, the Gandalf-looking character only looks on and watches Eren in silence. He's been assessing his form, which is not too bad considering he started days ago, and he thinks he's not wasting time by doing so. But he gotta admit though, Eren's swordsmanship is pretty lousy. Not to mention the fact that at his current strength, he can't handle the weight of the sword at all. Plus, he's already out of breath, indicative of his poor stamina and how he's badly pacing himself. How long will he continue at this rate? The old man wonders if Lord Jiren really is the cause behind the young noble's abrupt training. This kind of horsing around with the sword isn't good, and how much mana will he use? All these thoughts ran into the old man's head, but his reverie is broken after a strong gust of wind blew in the palace grounds and one of the guards exclaimed in shock as a griffin, one of the legendary animals, flew above them, ridden by none other than Princess Curl herself, wearing a long scowl on her face. So here's a rundown on what a griffin is. This legendary creature has the head and wings of an eagle with the body of a lion. It has a pretty hard coat similar to steel with a commanding presence to boot. But what's the most shocking about this creature is that it's not supposed to exist. It's a thing of legend. Well, that's until Princess Curl came flying with it. No biggie. She flew down in front of the guards, who are now shaking in fear at the princess' talent, how she can move her creations at will, and her ability to give life to them as if they were really alive. That's Princess Curl for you. But now, they have a new fear. The princess continues to glare at the guards and even calls each of them out, even the old man himself. But she was quick to dismiss him and only paid attention to the guards who were slacking off during work times. How many times does she have to tell them not to play hooky during work? One of them was quick to reason out that he had just finished his shift, as the old man listened on. Reduced to a poorly drawn side character in the panel, the man wasn't even colored. Sweating. The older guard explained that he was on the afternoon shift and that he didn't do anything wrong. But Princess Curl only scrutinized him all the more, even telling him that maybe he was just vomiting words at the spur of the moment. She even knows that this guard doesn't even work in the training grounds, and that he's just pretty nosy about what's happening lately. She would have continued grilling him if Eren didn't step up and called her attention, wondering why she was acting such. She was quiet for a moment and looked at the guards, then told her brother to stop doing whatever it is that he's doing. Eren was left confused, but the princess only told him to just stop it. To this, Eren turned his back and just continued practicing with the sword again. Seeing this, Curl got aggravated, shouting at him that swordsmanship is no easy task, especially for someone like him who's been sleeping it out for the last few years. Did he actually think he'll be able to pull it off? Curl questions him. Eren remains silent, but she continues by even comparing his skills to the rookie guards, telling Eren that they're even better than he is. She would have continued to pop off if only her mother, Queen Amelia, didn't come waltzing down the stairs with a smile much to the guard's shock. She told the princess not to bother her brother and asked that she come with her, but Curl was about to reason out, but thankfully, the queen is the only one who can call the princess out like that. Amelia then praised the guards for their hard work and told Eren not to overwork himself with practice. With that, the two of them walked away, which left the guards breathing a sigh of relief, but let's not forget the Griffin's still here. The creature gave a loud squawk that made them jump from their armor. As they shouted in frustration why the princess didn't bring her creation with her, the old man was smiling to himself, thinking about the famed princess and how it seemed like a storm passed by the scene. Anyway, he was quick to shift his focus on Eren and with a sharp eye, assessed that even with all the fiasco, the young noble only continued to practice with the sword, not even bothered by the things going around him. With this in mind, the old man thought that he would continue to observe Eren for a few more days. Then suddenly, it's nighttime, and in the palace hallways, one can hear quiet footsteps. The owner of these footsteps is none other than the princess who's trying to sneak in if not for Eren's butler who appeared from behind her, telling Curl that the young master is already sleeping. Startled at his appearance, Curl answered with a pout that she had something to say to him, but his butler said that it would be better to visit him later and wait until he woke up. The princess was quiet for a moment, then turned to face his butler, emitting her power and a strong gust of wind encircling her, while asking if the butler dared to talk back to her. And this, my friends, is a literal power-tripping scene. Eren's butler, shocked at her actions, is surprised and at the same time scared of the princess' menacing aura. But thankfully, Kurl was quick to dissipate it and told him not to tell anyone of what happened just now. By now, Aaron's butler was on his knees and only looked on as she walked away. Come morning, a red cat, dressed in a suit complete with a bowler hat, was playing the flute by Aaron's bedside table. The young noble woke up from his sleep and was surprised to see this latest addition to his room, noticing the letter placed at the foot of the cat. He opened it and read that it came from her sister. In it, she apologized for what she said back in the training grounds after she heard that he was overworking himself. She was only worried for him and told him that she left her a doll with relaxation properties, hoping it will help with Aaron's recovery. Well, isn't she lovable? To this, the prince looked at the cat who gave a small bow. In the letter, the princess also told him not to tell their mother that she stopped by since Queen Amelia already told her not to. After reading, Aaron flipped the back of the letter only to see there was more to it. This time, it's the queen's writing at the back of the letter, telling Aaron that if his sister bothers him too much, she should tell her while also telling him that they should keep this a secret from Kurl. Wow, not an evil stepmother. That's new. With a smile, Aaron thought to himself that both his mother and sister cared about him so much while petting the cat, even if he has done nothing but sleep for the past decade. As if on cue, a knock came on his door, with his butler telling him that breakfast is ready. Thinking of breakfast, Aaron was struck with an idea. He decided to join his family for breakfast. His butler, with quick strides, hurriedly went off with a smile, thinking that the prince has changed and for the better. It's not every day that the whole royal family comes together for meals, especially not them. With Aaron present, Kurl kept putting one parcel of food after the other on his plate as their parents looked on, smiling. As the queen was about to tell Kurl to take it easy, Aaron spoke, thanking both his parents and Kurl, even if the only thing he did in the past was sleep like a fool. He told his family that he couldn't bring himself to say it back then, but now he can say that he's sorry and that he loves all of them very much. Even his father echoed the sentiment of love as Aaron says he's sorry for causing concern, but fortunately for him, his father was quick to dismiss that. And since Aaron already began the conversation over the meal, his father also brought up the topic of him practicing his swordsmanship skills. Like his mother, he also reminded Aaron that he shouldn't overwork himself, applauding his son for his efforts despite starting late on the craft. Now, don't we all wish we have supportive parents like them? Aaron replies to his father, telling him that he's not overworking himself and that there's no need to worry about him at all. Thinking about the recurring dream he had, Aaron thought to himself that this kind of strain is nothing compared to that. So now, we're back at the training grounds. The guards are still wondering how Aaron's still at it, and it's been 2 weeks since he started with the sword. And what's even more impressive is that he never missed a day of training. So did this once lazy prince really change for the better? The other guard claimed that might not be so and that the prince will probably tire of this soon, though it doesn't seem like he's about to give out anytime soon. As they're having this convo, one of them can't help but notice the hooded old man sitting by the corner. One of the guards told the other that the old man was just here to watch and even has the approval of the higher-ups, so he doesn't need to be bothered by him. Now let's take a look at the old man, who has his eyes closed deep in thought. He's thinking that it's been 10 days since he started observing Aaron's training. Like many others, at first, he thought the young noble's motivation for training was fueled by his sense of pride and inferiority, which is not enough reason to fuel such diligence. But boy, was the old man completely wrong. Because he has spent a lot of time in the training grounds, the old man is also aware of Aaron's nickname, the Lazy Lord, but from what he's seeing, the young prince is far from it. First of all, for someone who has had no formal sword training all his life, how could he continue such rigorous training without showing any signs of irritation? Was he enlightened by Buddha or something? Because of this, the old man can't help but compare Aaron's training to that of a blacksmith who hammers his steel every day. It's like he's been doing this for decades now, without showing any signs of faltering. The old man can't even remember anyone from the past who has such a steadfast work ethic. But wait a minute. It takes a long time to develop such work ethics and willpower, even decades, and yet he's seeing it in 15-year-old Aaron. If this goes on, he could discover his true potential, and with the right mentor, could he become one of the greatest swordsmen to this day? Putting all of his weight on the sword, Aaron continues to keep on practicing his swing as many of the palace guards, as well as the hooded old man, watched on. This time, the old man called out to the arena's keeper, asking him if Aaron has any history of a private swordsmanship tutor. But the arena keeper only told him that Baron, Aaron's father, is setting up a tutor for him. Seeing all his efforts, it'd be a shame to put it all to waste if he wasn't guided accordingly, the arena keeper also added. Curious about who could be his tutor, the arena keeper answered that from what he remembered, it would be Sir Orlan Jukran. No. The arena keeper was shocked to see the old man so close to him with a grave look on his face. To be fair, he has grave room for concern. According to the old man, this supposed teacher of Eren is a notorious drunk who has a habit of drinking before giving formal training. And because of this, he does nothing but yells at the soldiers and novices. That drunkard is no good as a teacher for a budding swordsman like Eren. The old man quickly turned around, and with a stride, thought to himself that he needs to act fast. A precious gem like Eren shouldn't fall into the hands of a negligent tutor like him. He hurriedly went off to see his father, and in no time at all reached his office. Back in his father's office, he was kind enough to hear what the old man had to say and was bewildered by what he heard. He asked if it was all true, to which the old man grimly confirmed. It was about Eren, who actually has the potential to be an expert swordsman. Who would have thought? Baron was shocked and pleased, and at the same time worried. After all, the old man already presented him with a letter of recommendation for Eren to attend the Chronos Swordsmanship Academy. It's like the Swordsmanship Academy for the elite of the land. Only the most exceptional talents can get into the prestigious academy. It doesn't matter if you're from royalty or not. And if you ever did get accepted in Chronos, you'll be treated much better than most nobles. That's how elite this school is. Its reputation is even greater than that of the Royal Academy. Sure, it's one thing to get accepted into the school, but it's an entirely different matter to become a trainee there. Can Eren, who just started his swordsmanship training a few weeks ago, manage to hold out? This is the thought that bothers Baron the most. I mean, just look at Eren. Dude ain't even at novice level yet. Still, Baron decided to call his son to the office to inform Eren that he received a recommendation letter to attend Chronos Swordsmanship Academy. Obviously, Eren is the most shocked to even be considered in such a top-notch school. But like every good father, Baron didn't force him to make a decision right then and there, but only expressed his support on whatever Eren may choose, and that it's his call to make. Gon's dad could learn a thing or two from Baron's parenting, don't you think? Now back to Eren, naturally. He was dumbfounded by this and just told his father that he'll think it through for the next couple of days. In his room, Eren sat contemplating in the comfort of his luxurious bed about what transpired a while ago. But his main thought was on whether or not he had the capacity to do this, could he? Well, our boy hasn't been the most active in the last 10 years, only sleeping until God knows when. And now an opportunity to attend a swordsmanship academy. But then again, if he didn't have the potential, this opportunity wouldn't have come, right? Gripping his bedsheets firmly, he decided that he doesn't want to spend the rest of his days lying down in despair anymore. He came to this decision not just for himself, but for his loving family too. Attaboy Eren. And just like that, Eren went directly to Baron's office, announcing the firm determination that he'd like his hand at the Chronos Swordsmanship Academy. Next thing we know, Eren is already saying goodbye to his family from the entrance of the palace grounds, with murmurs surrounding the prince's abrupt decision. With tears in her mother's eyes, she bade him farewell while his father looked on fondly and Kurl wished him safe travels. On the road was only his butler and Eren in the carriage, with the former asking Eren if it's the first time he's leaving the family estate. Thinking about it, Eren said that it was, indeed, the first time he left the family estate. While he was busy staring outside, his butler pulled something from his belongings and told Eren that Kurl wanted him to have something of hers, a necklace, with a pendant fashioned into a small sword, leaving Eren's eyes wide in shock. Smiling to himself, he took the necklace and thanked his sister silently. It didn't take long for the two to reach the entrance of Chronos Swordsmanship Academy, and Eren was awestruck at the towering facade that was filled with aspiring novices left and right. His butler was about to escort him to the entrance, but he declined, leaving the former stunned. Eren then told him that from now on, he's just a mere trainee and that he has to get used to being on his own. Hearing all this, his butler can't help but be proud of the young master, and with one last look, Eren told him to take care and proceeded to go inside. His butler bowed humbly and wished him well, while Eren continued walking with a nervous stride. It's like the first day of school, of course. It's nerve-wracking and exciting. As he neared the entrance to the academy, Eren saw that there was another boy before him escorted by two older guards. The boy, a blue-haired talent wearing a smirk, was introduced by one of the guards as Lord Brett Lloyd, the son of Count Lloyd, who was one of the most esteemed families in the Gavira Kingdom. What's more, Brett was also recommended to the academy by Sir Cole Swady. One of the palace guards welcomed the young noble, saying how honored he is to welcome such a figure. Just then, the other guard, one with a vertical scar on his left eye, sporting red hair and streaks of white on it, noticed Aaron approaching. As he did so, Aaron was quick to introduce himself as the son of Baron Pereira, and along with it, he presented the recommendation letter from the wandering knight, Sir Bran Somerville. Well, what do you know? Turns out the old man's a legit knight after all. Like what they did to Brett, the first knight also welcomed Aaron with open arms and told him that they're also aware of who Sir Bran Somerville is. He's a knight on active duty and is the one behind subduing many of the creatures for decades now. Additionally, this knight also told Aaron that if his recommendation came from Sir Bran, then there's no doubt that he'd pass easily. After that, he was quick to direct Aaron to the auditorium and also wished him luck with our young hero, walking away and thanking him for the encouragement. As soon as Aaron was out of earshot, the red-haired guard said out loud that he didn't expect Sir Bran to be the type to write letters of recommendation for anyone. His fellow guard also agreed, most especially not for the lazy prince. To this, the red-haired guard asked who the lazy prince was, and the other was quick to explain about the lazy young lord of the Pereira family. Aaron's reputation sure preceded him, so here's to hoping his reputation improves from here on out. Hearing all this, the red-haired guard can't help but agree, seeing how Aaron's physique is subpar, making him look weaker in person. So what exactly did the old man see in him? By now, Aaron has reached the door to the auditorium and with a gulp, pushed the wooden door open. In doing so, he was met with many glares and judging looks, including the blue-haired boy from before, as well as a girl with short bright red hair. Another girl with long silver locks tied into a pony only gave him so much as a side glance, but Aaron had no time to think since he was distracted by the figure approaching the podium. It was none other than the red-haired guard from before, and as soon as he reached the podium, he was quick to announce that there are 400 preliminary trainees present there and introduced himself as Ahmed. From today onwards, Ahmed will serve as their instructor, who will also be teaching and evaluating their progress. From his position, Ahmed gave a quick scan of the crowd and noted to himself that there are several promising candidates for this year, including the blue-haired boy, the silver-haired girl, as well as the girl with bright hair. But out of all these candidates, the one that stood out the most is the silver-haired girl named Ilya Lindsay from the genius family of Lindsay. It's been told that she's the second genius from their clan, which made Ahmed wonder just how talented she is. Hearing how she's more gifted than her older brother, prospective waifu detected. But Ahmed wasn't the only one looking at Ilya. Brett was also glaring at her from a distance, wondering why she had to attend the academy since she was already talented enough as she is. With her present, Brett thought to himself that acquiring the top position is no longer an easy win for him. Watch out, we got pretty ambitious lad right here. Ahmed continued with his speech, telling everyone that they were all preliminary trainees and not official ones yet. What's more, he reminded them how challenging the swordsmanship training is at the academy, and that if they manage to pass the 2 upcoming exams and hold out for a year, only then will they be considered official trainees. But then again, once they become official, training will only get harder. After saying this, Ahmed made them leave their belongings and follow him outside, saying there was a place he wanted them to see. Once outside, they're gathered in an oval track, and Ahmed, now bare from his suit of armor, explains that it's the location for physical training sessions to improve cardio and muscular endurance. It's relatively flat, though there are a few slopes that will serve as their running course. And without any warning, Ahmed came to a running start, dashing forward that signaled the start of their endurance test. As if that wasn't fast enough, he decided to quicken the pace, zooming past the front line of trainees, and even then, he decided to go faster still. He was already a few paces ahead of them, while the rest of the trainees scrambled to catch up to him, many already panting hard, including Aaron and a few others. Brett was already thinking to himself that he needs to maintain his pace since this is a long-distance run while running from the back. Of course, he looked back and saw that the lazy prince was already lagging far behind, on his knees and sweating buckets. Brett thought to himself that Aaron wouldn't get that nickname for nothing. Meanwhile, Aaron was already deep in thought how hard the first task is, huffing extra hard while doing so while the rest of the trainees ran further from him. On the opposite side of the track, Ahmed was quick to notice Aaron had stopped, but he didn't comment or anything and continued to run further. As they continued to run, Aaron started to get up, his whole body trembling and him still panting, only to take another step forward and continue to run. Seeing this, Brett was beyond shocked, while Ahmed only smirked at the young noble's determination. Aaron thought to himself that this hardship is nothing compared to what the swordsman in his dream went through. He thought to himself how he wanted to be like him and to be on the same level as the swordsman in his dream. To do that, Aaron told himself that he needs to overcome his past self, which is the lazy lord. On the side, one of the guards who welcomed Aaron, the one with the moss-colored hair, was also watching the endurance test. Like Ahmed, he's also rid of his armor and was observing Aaron, surprised that our young hero pushed through despite being on his knees and out of breath. That's our main character for you. However, this guard was suddenly alarmed at Aaron's condition. He was already coughing unnaturally and was close to losing consciousness. Meanwhile, Ahmed and the rest of the trainees are catching up behind Aaron, as our hero takes a stumble, startling the approaching bunch. Fortunately, this other guard made a run for it and quickly caught Aaron as he was about to be run over by the rest of the batch. Taking a closer look at Aaron, the guard thought to himself that Aaron didn't just faint. He pushed his body way past its limits, which resulted in him losing consciousness. Damn, that's next-level effort. Still, this guard can't help but wonder at this curious kid, as he lay panting with his eyes closed shut. Aaron woke up with a start, quickly getting up from bed and scanning the room, thinking to himself where he was. A voice from his left told him that he was just dandy fine and introduced himself as the instructor of Rune Tarhal, as well as the person in charge of the recovery room. Aaron was quick to say his thanks, to which the instructor said he should dang right be grateful because he just made our hero recover faster. But with a smile, he also told Aaron that maybe they'll be seeing each other more frequently, which Aaron didn't get as a joke. Right after, he handed Aaron a scroll which turns out to be the ranking of the test, but he was also quick to say that it isn't part of the finals and midterm exams that will dictate if they made it as official trainees or not. Among other things, the endurance test they did was just a quick look to see the candidates' current levels. And no surprise there, Aaron saw himself ranked 400th in the test. The instructor then tried to console him, saying that ranking high on the list boosts one's esteem, while those ranked lower are motivated to work even harder. Plus, this ranking is bound to change in a year, he said. But the instructor is quite surprised at how calm Aaron is. In fact, he doesn't seem to be fazed that he's the last one in the ranking. Seeing that Aaron seems to be okay, the instructor was quick to shove Aaron out of the recovery room, and off his way he went. Come the next day, the trainees were already seated at the lecture hall when the moss-haired guard greeted them a good morning from the podium. With a smile, he seemed pleased to know that most of the preliminary students slept fairly well and introduced himself as Karaka, who will serve as their instructor for today. Karaka quickly presented to them a new schedule they will follow for today, which includes getting up and having breakfast from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, quickly followed by a morning training session until noon. From there, they're given an hour's break and will start afternoon training at 13 o'clock until 17 o'clock, followed by a 1-hour dinner until 18 o'clock. After dinner, they will have a 1-hour mental training and liberal art class. After they finish the schedule, they're free to do so as they please. Additionally, starting today, Karaka also said that all training halls, fitness rooms, and other training facilities will be open for their use, especially for those who wish to train more anytime. Hearing this, Aaron thought to himself that he could resume his swordsmanship training, but his thoughts were cut short after Karaka said that weapon training is not allowed. A swordsmanship academy that doesn't allow sword training? Come on now. The day flew by and suddenly, dusk was already settling on the palace grounds. Red is seen walking, accompanied by his girls, 4 other trainees. As they were walking, one of them asked him if he thought the liberal arts class boring, adding that the academy is a bit much by making them take another class after a whole day's worth of training, but Brett only kept smiling. One of the other trainees countered, saying that the first training was having a hard time because he didn't understand the lesson. And soon enough, they reached the door to one of the training facilities. Inside, they were shocked to see that the area is a lot bigger than they thought and that it was already full of other trainees busy with weight training. As they walked around, looking at the other trainees, one of them commented how everybody is hard at work while the other one said that it was only a matter of time before they drop one by one. However, Brett's attention is directed toward Ilya, who's pretty busy lifting weights that look a little too heavy for any girl out there. But then again, she's a genius prodigy after all. While Ilya is busy squatting them heavy barbells, Brett could only look on and gulp in fear after seeing her in action, admitting that her presence overwhelms him. Brett's train of thought continued to spiral, thinking that Ilya is in no way on the same level as they are, making him feel inferior and not jealous at all. It's like there's a whole gap of stairs between him and Ilya, a different level from the others. Even Brett's clique was surprised at her ability to lift such weights with that body, but the other trainee gasped in shock seeing that the lazy lord is also busy doing weightlifting, but on a much lighter scale. The 2 trainees continued to make fun of Aaron, saying how he wasted his life sleeping instead of training back then, But our hero paid them no mind. They continued to make fun of him, saying how he will faint again when Ilya notices Aaron's attempts. Brett told the other two trainees to cut it out and told them that they were leaving when this time, Brett noticed the short-haired girl with bright red hair also busy doing hammer curls by the bench. Brett knew that this girl's name was Judith and that she was the only commoner among the nobles. And how could he not know her? She's the one who beat Brett for second place. And this blue-haired boy doesn't let things like that go. Your boy's shooting daggers in Judith's direction, in his thoughts, promising to never let her get second place again and emitting a menacing aura when Judith calls him out on his BS. The aggravated girl called him out to stop staring, which caught Brett by surprise. Is this commoner talking to me? Judith is not one to back down though, and yeah, she's definitely talking to him and told him to beat it since he's making her lose focus. Of course, Brett's small fry henchmen are quick to jump to his side, calling Judith out for her brashness and for not paying respect to Brett, but this red-haired girl only asked them if it's cute just following Brett around. One of them got pretty heated and demanded Judith to apologize to him immediately, but she just kept adding fuel to the fire, even telling him that his mouth stinks. Just as he was about to retaliate, Judith told him to shut up while focusing on one corner of the training area that even Brett got curious and also turned to look. What they both saw, what all of them saw, shocked them to the core. Ilya approached Aaron, pulling him aside for a quick talk. Even Aaron himself got pretty shocked, the bar still in hand. From their area, no one can actually hear the conversation between the two, with them whispering and Ilya pointing something out to our hero. The whole training hall was silent. You could actually hear the tumbleweeds rolling. Aaron and Ilya's conversation soon ended with her walking away while Aaron bowed to her shyly, as soon as she slammed the door shut of the training hall. Aaron now has a new concern, various eyes staring at him, but when he looked back to see, all of them averted their gaze and continued working out. This scene looks like it came straight out on a classic slapstick comedy. Judith and Brett were both thinking the same thing. They couldn't hear what the two said. So Judith, impulsive as she is, got up and dropped the dumbbell on one of Brett's henchmen and walked straight toward Aaron. She called him out, but Aaron, shocked for the second time today, was too stunned while Judith is as impatient as ever. She told him that she should respond when someone talks to him, so Aaron was quick to get up and talk. However, Judith straight up told him that she was not interested in him and that he should tell him right now. Huh? Aaron is still dumbfounded. Well, turns out Judith wants to know what Ilya Lindsay had to say to him. So what exactly did the top students say to the one who ranked last? Shocked, Judith was annoyed and glaring at Aaron. Did Ilya Lindsay really just walk over to Aaron just to tell him how to use the equipment properly and to correct his posture? Who would believe that? But Aaron swore that he was telling the truth. So Judith had to ask if the two of them knew each other from before or if they were lovers. But Aaron said that this is the first time he even saw her today. Judith seemed satisfied with Aaron's boring answer, so she turned to go. But before she stomped away, she told him to loosen up since the other trainees might think she's bullying him. Aaron just thought to himself how brash Judith was, and as he was about to resume his training, remembering Ilya's advice, he got cut off again, and this time by Brett. Like Judith, he was quick to ask what Ilya had to say to him before and what he and Judith talked about later on. Just like that, 1 month passed by, and as usual, Brett stood drinking his water, surrounded by the same henchmen from before, though it's only 3 of them now. They're at the training halls, and just a few feet away from them is Aaron, practicing his weightlifting while Ilya watches over him, correcting his form and coaching him. As Aaron struggles with the squat, Brett turns to himself, saying that he won't concern himself over these two. Admittedly, he also thought to himself that he'll never win against Ilya, and that she is, without a doubt, the top trainee for this year. But for Aaron, there's not much respect to him. He's still the last-ranked trainee out of all of them. If anything, Brett's pretty convinced that Aaron bribed his way to get a slot at the academy. He thinks that Aaron, who has done nothing but be lazy for his whole life, can never reach the level Brett's currently at. Even with Ilya's coaching and encouragement, Brett really believes that sooner or later, Aaron will return to being the lazy prince, which is his old self. Brett then told his pack that they'll be heading out to the track while thinking to himself that he was settling for second place. But as he approached the track, he was annoyed to see that Judith beat him to it and was already running hard. One of his henchmen can't help but praise Judith's intensity and how she always got to the track first. His other henchman only commented that it's only natural that she works this hard. She's a commoner after all. But Brett was already pissed and told them that they'll start running anyway. They were shocked to hear this, but with a glare, Brett told them that they could follow slowly if they find it too hard. Otherwise, he told him, with a menacing aura, that they should run after him as if their lives depended on it. This kid sure needs to bump his pep talk. Then came 3 months later. Ahmed and Karaka dropped by the training halls to see that only a few trainees remained, many notwithstanding the harsh training in the academy. But Karaka said with a smile that compared to last year, there are a lot more of them this time around. The big three, Judith, Brett, and Ilya, are still going at it at their own pace, with Judith doing weightlifting, Brett running track, and Ilya with her own exercises. And then there's also the lazy. Nope, not anymore. Can't call Aaron lazy anymore. Can we? Not after all the hard work he put through. The next day, they were all gathered in the lecture hall when Ahmed made a big announcement. It was time for their midterm evaluations. Many of them were surprised while Ahmed continued to explain that for this evaluation, they will undergo a certain course. To pass, they just need to complete the course within a certain time frame. Seeing the track, many were already airing their frustration and dread at the difficulty abound in the course, even Judith herself frowning at it. However, Ahmed continued to explain by saying that the course is nothing out of the ordinary and is a culmination of the things they have been doing for the past 3 months, which will include running and swimming. The actual course will serve as the evaluation, and as long as they finish it within the time limit, they're all good. Plus the good part is that rankings don't matter in this evaluation. And here's the fun part. Ahmed also said that the academy head will be giving out a reward. Just to boost morale? No biggie. The midterm evaluations will commence 10 days from now at exactly 9 in the morning. To give focus to the evils, there are no classes and the trainees are free to do as they please. With that, he wished them the best of luck. As usual, Brett's henchmen were quick to question their dear pack leader if they could finish the evaluations, one of them even saying that, duh, of course, Brett can do this. He is Lord Brett Lloyd after all. But while they were bickering, Brett was deep in thought, thinking about Ilya and Judith, while also contemplating a few others. Still, he was confident that he'd get into the top 5 spot and there aren't any risks for this. However, he couldn't help this shaking and uneasy feeling as he glared toward Aaron, who was busy running track. It's a different day and most of the trainees are pretty busy doing their own thing, with Judith focusing on breaking a new PR in weightlifting. She was happy with what she accomplished and was about to call it a day when she heard barfing sounds from the corner. Looking at the direction of the sounds, she saw that it came from Aaron, who was on his knees, panting and out of breath. Judith thought to herself that Aaron is pushing himself beyond his limit once again. It made her think about when he first stepped foot in the academy. Compared to back then, she thought of how Aaron improved tremendously and asked herself how he's able to accomplish such a feat. Clenching her fist tightly, Judith can't help but compare if her willpower is lesser than that of the lazy lord, so she did what she had to do. She resumed training. She's not having it. Days flew by so fast that suddenly, it's only a day before the midterm evaluations. Karaka wonders out loud how many trainees will be able to pass the course, and Ahmed estimated that there would probably be 30 of them. Hearing this, the head sword master popped out in between the 2 instructors, which surprised Ahmed, asking him what he's doing there. The head sword master of Kronos Academy, Ian, a bald man with a white mid-length mustache and beard, told the 2 instructors that he fancied seeing how the trainees are this year rather than hearing it from somebody else. After that, he quickly greeted Karaka, who he knows as the new assistant instructor from the Kingdom of Adon. While they were shaking each other's hands, the headmaster was quick to ask Karaka how old he think he is, and the younger instructor, obviously flustered, answered 55. Well, it seems to flatter the old man since he broke into a smile, telling him that he hates outright flattery and at the same time will double his wage. Karaka only smiled and thanked him, but in reality, Ian is actually 90 years old, and Ahmed told him from the side not to believe what the head swordmaster says because he doesn't handle the finances. Now, back to the trainees. Even the headmaster himself noticed that this year's batch of trainees is a lot different from last year's. Is this the result of Ahmed and Karaka's combined teachings? But Karaka only said that he's given him way too much credit. Suddenly, Ian's attention was drawn by a certain trainee, and Karaka noticed, following his line of sight. He was quick to explain that the trainee they were looking at is the second genius of the Lindsay family, Ilya, who is busy doing lifts. He further elaborated that she's the top student among the trainees and is a prodigy who lives up to her reputation. That may be true and all, but the headmaster sees something different in her. While not taking his eyes off Ilya, he pitied how she was so obsessed with the path chosen for her, instead of pursuing what she wanted. Hearing this, Ahmed was surprised, but there's more where that came from. The headmaster also said that she hopes she could get rid of this useless obsession one day and questioned how society pushed her to become as such. Then he was quick to see Judith, doing barbell squats, and only said that Judith is overworking herself. He then asked the instructors if they already warned her about overexerting herself, which they did. Karaka even added that Judith is the most hard-headed out of all the trainees in this batch. To this, the headmaster told them that they should still warn her and started walking towards Judith, while also saying that it'd be a waste if she gets burned out. Another reason why he wanted to approach her is to find out the reason why she works so hard. With a few strides, the headmaster is already in front of Judith, but their conversation can't be heard. Karaka wonders out loud if he could stop Judith from overworking, and Ahmed was quick to say that surely she'll listen to the headmaster's warning. But as soon as he turned his back and walked away, Judith continued with her workout. Damn, this girl really doesn't listen. Ahmed was just about to question the headmaster when the latter told them that Judith is indeed stubborn and will only stop exerting herself if he gave her a good reason to do so. The headmaster quickly changed the topic by asking where Aaron is and made a quick glance across the halls. Only the sounds of the various pieces of workout equipment can be heard, with Karaka and Ahmed standing silently side by side. Ahmed asked how long it's been, and Karaka answered that it's been 30 minutes since the headmaster observed Aaron, who was busy doing barbell squats. And without saying anything, the old man quickly turned away and told the two to not bother Aaron. They clarified the headmaster's wishes, of which Ian told them not to stop him unless Aaron himself chose to give up. He was quick to assess that Aaron has complete control of his body. When night came, Aaron plopped down on his bed, full of muscle patches to help relieve the pain from his workouts. While lying, he contemplated on the things that happened in the past few days, such as his fellow trainees who mocked and ignored him, namely Judith and Brett, are now starting to become more conscious of him, which is such a weird feeling. Then there's the top trainee Ilya, who's lending a hand to Aaron's workouts. Why is she doing that? She's not the type to just reach out and help other people out of pity. As soon as he closed his eyes, Aaron fell into a deep sleep and dreamt that he was in the arms of a woman, clad from head to toe in a long, flowing red cloak. The woman told Aaron in the dream that it's been a while, and suddenly he remembered why he never left his bed. It's to be in the arms of his beloved mother. But Aaron knows this figure isn't really his mother, though its embrace is warm as ever, which made him think that it would be nice to just fall asleep all over again like before. However, a sudden spark was ignited that caught Aaron's attention, and along with it came a blinding light, and it soon revealed as the swordsman in his recurring dream, slashing the red cloak of the figure that surrounded Aaron. Looking at him in awe, Aaron got up and was about to move closer to the long-haired swordsman when a hand reached out and grabbed his arm, stopping him from doing so. Aaron gently removed the figure's grasp from his arm while also thanking it with a smile, saying that he must go now. And just like that, Aaron woke up with a different aura. He seems to be generating a different kind of energy that's full of intent and determination. What will Aaron do next? Aaron walks into the course on the day of the evaluation, looking more beaten up than usual, which earned him a few whispers behind his back. Some even think that maybe he overdid himself this time, even one of Brett's henchmen. Brett only stared at Aaron in silence, then shifted his gaze to another trainee who looks a little worse for wear, Judith. Judging from her looks, she once again overworked herself and is in the worst condition she's ever been in. Seeing this, Brett smirked, thinking the second place is as good as his right now, as long as he doesn't let his guard down. Ilya also threw a glance at Aaron, who's been pretty quiet the whole time, but everyone's attention is now focused on Ahmed. With only 5 minutes before the midterm evaluations, Ahmed went over the rules one last time, explaining that it has 4 stages with different instructors set for each course. Once they finish the target point, they're free to proceed with the next location and challenge. He also stressed that this exam is based on an absolute grading scale. Everybody should focus on their own progress and show the instructors how much they've improved. The trainees already got into position at the first location, with everyone feeling the intensity of the activity. For the first challenge, the trainees were made to do push-press. And contrary to what Ahmed said, Brett's being nosy about others' business once again, and is looking at how fast Ilya performs the challenge. Looking at her while finishing his own, Brett thought to himself that he'll never be as fast as her, then thought that he still has a run for second place. Brett and his boys were still struggling hard to finish the first task when one of his henchmen noticed something strange that made Brett look as well. And boy, was he not pleased with what he saw. Aaron was doing the fastest push presses out there, with a beaten down body. How does he do it? Even Karaka, who was overseeing the location, was surprised at his intensity, but Aaron was purely focused and didn't slow down or take a break at all. Seeing this, Brett was shocked, thinking that Aaron wasn't pacing himself well for the challenge. Did he want to burn out that fast? As he was busy looking at Aaron, Ilya already finished her set, leaving him surprised as usual, but he was even more surprised when the instructor called out Aaron's name, announcing that he was also done with the challenge. With one last huff, Aaron dropped the barbell and walked towards the second location. Many of the trainees were shocked at his progress. Even after he finished the first task, Aaron still hasn't said a single word and proceeded to the next location, close behind Ilya. Some of them just ignored him, while others claimed that he'll get disqualified anyway, so it wouldn't matter. But unbeknownst to them, Aaron could hear what everyone was saying behind his back as he walked towards the second challenge, which were box jumps. He immediately started on the box jumps, thinking that if they were surprised at his performance so far, more so him. Like the dude practically spent his last few years sleeping, so how was he pulling this off? Aaron thought that there was something different about his body today, like it was burning, but he's in complete control and doesn't feel like he's nearing burnout. This made him think that maybe he will if he went faster, but no, he needs to do more. He can do more. Faster. More. With everything he got, he managed to finish doing box jumps at an alarming speed. Even Ahmed is pretty shocked at this, and just like that, he announced Aaron's completion of the second task. Hearing this, Brett looked scared, but he didn't have enough time to focus on him since he got distracted by a loud yell from behind. Judith is in overdrive mode, doing her best to finish the first task as the headmaster looked on. Then came stage 3, which is long-distance running. By this time, it's only Ilya leading the run with Aaron close behind her. While panting behind her, Aaron thought to himself that there was something strange, a different feeling that made him want to be Ilya in the course. As he readied himself to overtake her, another figure crept up fast behind him with a sprint, and he was surprised to see that it was Judith. This overworked trainee even managed to overtake Ilya, which surprised Aaron. With Judith leading stage 3, she thought to herself that she wouldn't lose. With every step, she looked back on everything she did to get here, even remembering how she got dissed when people heard she applied for Kronos Academy. These malicious voices tell Judith to tell her that she's delusional and that it's too big for her boots. But she persevered, fueled by her want to get accepted into the academy and pure hard work. She continued thinking to herself that she will never allow anyone to beat her, ever. With a shout, Judith yelled that she won't lose to anyone, just in time for her to reach stage 4, which is long-distance swimming. Judith dived with much gusto into the waters and continued swimming with such intensity, and suddenly, she felt it. The stabbing pain and a cramp on her left leg. Why now, of all times? But are we even surprised, since she's been going at it too hard? Despite the pain, Judith still continued to swim in the water with tears in her eyes, and in a flash, she was surprised to see Ilya already overtaking her so easily. As she looked at Ilya's back, who was moving further and further away from her, Judith thought to herself that even though she knew she worked herself too hard, but even with all that hard work, is it really not possible to beat Ilya? This time, Judith's other leg starts to cramp too. As she continues to look at Ilya's back, Judith cries in frustration, and she now starts to give in to her exhaustion. She stops paddling and soon finds herself sinking deep into the dark waters of the lake. However, she was broken out of her reverie with a splash when suddenly a hand reached out and pulled her from under the water. With her eyes still closed, Judith is conscious that someone is dragging her out of the water, strong muscles gripping her firmly. She gives out a loud cough as her rescuer continues to swim. Now, Judith slowly opens her eyes and sees that it's Aaron who came to her rescue. But what about the evaluations?